I'm Will Beardsley from the Faith and Process Center, and I'm talking to Gene Reeves, who's Dean of Meadville Lombard Theological School. We're going to talk about process theology. Gene, what we'd like to have you tell us is what you find to be the heart of process theology as you use it in your thinking and your life and your work.
Well, I suspect there are a lot of different ways one could try to get at what is the heart of process theology. But, you know, Whitehead made creativity, as he called it, the category or part of the category of the ultimate. And I guess when I first was taken by process thought, it was probably creativity more than anything else that captured my imagination, and for several reasons. For me, that was a way of understanding how human hope could be kind of made intelligible, how it could be, in a sense, justified and bolstered. Because against a whole variety of schemes and ways that people have had of kind of foreclosing the future, either in a theological way by saying that God would control what would happen, or maybe in a psychological way by saying that we're purely the products of what happens to us when we're infants, or in some other scientific deterministic way. And Whitehead's philosophy, for me, was a way of understanding and, in a sense, lending credibility to the notion that human beings have some ability to create their own world. Whitehead did a book which he called Religion in the Making. And I've often thought that it may be another appropriate title for process philosophy would be something like The World in the Making. Mm-hmm. Because for me what it did was to give a sense of how it is that we come out of a past, we're importantly influenced by communities and by histories and traditions and symbols, but that past, those communities which invigorate us and give us life and provide us with understandings, are never completely foreclose the future for us. They enable us to create a new world. And for me, that just opened up all kinds of possibilities. For me personally, as an individual, it meant that I didn't have to be confined to the kind of environment or background that I grew up with personally. But also it's had for me a kind of institutional importance. It means to me that one of the things I've been concerned about all my life is kind of what we call nowadays, I suppose, economic justice and injustice. And process theology was a way for me to understand that the kind of injustices we see in the world are not something that we simply have to endure. They're not just kind of the iron laws of economics, as some people would have us believe, but human creations. And as such, they're capable of being changed. So for me, creativity meant a grounding for human hope. But then, at the same time, it also, creativity for me suggests the importance of what I call human faith. Whitehead didn't use that term.
Human faith?
Human faith.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean that process philosophy, process theology and philosophy give us a way of understanding how it is that life, human life, is meaningful. How our lives make a difference. No one has probably ever accused Jesse Jackson of being a process theologian. But the thing that he harps on, which he, for which he uses that little code word, I am somebody, and he gets all those folks out there repeating that, I am somebody, is really, it seems to me, one of the basic religious messages that my life, what I do with it, makes a difference. And process thought enables us to understand how that can be true. It's related to the notion of...
Spell that out a little bit, Gene. How it is that process thought helps us to see that I am somebody.
Well, in a way, to look at it in a kind of egocentric way, in a way,
yeah.
Process thought gives us a kind of model of a whole welter of a world out there, of a past, that has influence on us. And we ourselves make decisions about how we're going to create out of that past, and our decision has impact on future decisions, on future events in our own lives and in the lives of others. So that what we do and what we are makes an important difference on the whole of posterity. Now, of course, I studied at Emory, where you taught for many years, with Charles Hartshorne. And I think Hartshorne probably, more than Whitehead, although I could have gotten it from Whitehead, helped me to understand how the existence of God and God's reception or experience of what all of us do means that in a certain sense, and this is kind of Calvinist in a way, but the existence of God and the reception by God of what we do means that what we do makes an everlasting difference. It makes a difference to God. So that, again, kind of grounds, in a sense, our sense. I think everybody, except in very unusual circumstances, that everyone has some kind of pre-reflective, pre-thought-out, non-intellectual sense of the worth of human life and of the meaningfulness of their own lives. But sometimes that gets challenged, and sometimes that gets threatened by the possibilities of despair that come from economic conditions or from poverty or from vocational crises or crises in one's life. And I think it's important that religious traditions have ways of kind of telling stories, bolster people's faith and their confidence in the value of their own life.
Instead of making them feel guilty or inadequate.
What we are in terms of what we create of ourselves and how we influence others is all a matter of relations with others. And as Hartshorne used to put it, if you take process thought seriously, you cannot make a kind of, how should I put it, a kind of a radical separation between the self and the others.
You're saying that we actually do live in other people. And process theology can help us to see that and learn to expand that side of our life.
I think that's right. If one wants to use the language of interests, I think process thought helps us to understand how it is that our interests are intimately tied up with the interests of a wide range of other people, and how, and in that way kind of provides us with a basis for doing ethics and thinking about the good and the good life in ways that have not been traditional in our culture. At least my sense of it is that our culture has tended to emphasize that individual. And as kind of, as you know, in a capitalist society, we think of the war of each against every other. And I think process thought theology really gives us a basis for coming to understand how it is that our destiny, our interests, the good that is for us is also the good for others, and how we live out of the lives of others and into the lives of others.
So you would say that if we take the great traditional trinity of faith, hope, and love, process thought can show us how to bring creativity in all these three areas.
I think it also shows us how those three areas, how human hope and love and faith can be made intelligible, can be made meaningful, can be grounded, how they can be encouraged and developed and fostered in today's world.
Thank you very much, Gene. That's extremely helpful.
Thank you.